Morning light slips through glass and settles on cool stone. The onyx glows like a subdued ember. There is almost nothing here: planes, columns, water, and a few carefully placed objects. Yet the space feels complete, calm, precise, effortless. Ever think about where the modern minimalist aesthetic of large open spaces, floor-to-ceiling glass, a thin, flat roof, and rooms that flow instead of box up comes from? If you were to trace it to a single building that launched these ideas, look no further. Welcome to the German Pavilion, completed for the 1929 International Exposition in Barcelona, now famously known as the Barcelona Pavilion. There was no better stage than a World's Fair to introduce a new idea to the world. These were major international events where countries and industries showed off their latest technologies, achievements, and national identities. Germany's National Pavilion of 1929 was designed to declare the modern identity of the Weimar government. It was also meant to host official receptions led by the Spanish king and queen during the expo's opening. The space hosted no exhibition. The building itself is a display, a remarkable study in proportion, materials, and spatial organization. Through a connection with the German commissioner's wife, Mies van der Rohe and Lili Reich, German architect and designer, were commissioned for the job. At the time, Mies and Lili were a powerhouse modernist duo, already well established in architectural and exhibition design circles. They were tasked with the main pavilion, as well as Germany's entire exhibition section, some 16,000 square meters. The pavilion itself was about 1,400 square meters. Because there was no fixed program, Mies and Lili had a rare opportunity to study and showcase their ideas of modern architecture in its purest form. Securing a prime site was not easy. After many rounds of review, and with only 6 months left before opening, the site was finally set. On the west wing of the Plaza de Bellas Artes, and along the main route to the nearby theme park-like Poble Español, a wildly popular attraction that recreated traditional Spanish architecture. Of all the options, the final site was largest and more fitting for a grand pavilion. To use it, the Spanish organizers required Mies to maintain access from the main plaza to Poble Español. Mies clearly did not want this building experienced as a mere transitional space, or worse, an entrance to Poble Español on the hill above. He concealed the path from the central axis with overlapping walls. Access remained as promised, but the view was filtered, and the movement was slowed. The pavilion is divided into 2 parts. To the north, a large portion of the building is completely or partially covered by the thin roof. This is where the main ceremony was held. To the south sits a large, shallow reflecting pool with a long freestanding wall and a bench in front of it. At the far end of the plot is a small secondary building with an office and a bathroom. A smaller reflecting pool enclosed by walls yet open to the sky. This is where Georg Kolbe's sculpture known as Dawn stood. There are solid planes in travertine, onyx doré, tinos, and verde antique. Glass planes in clear, green-tinted, dark gray-tinted, and translucent white, and 8 cruciform columns. The floor plan supports Mies's idea of flowing space evident in his unbuilt 1924 project, the Brick Country House. Rooms are not sealed boxes but continuous fields, with walls as planes rather than containers. Another precedent came in 1927, when Mies and Lilly designed an exhibition for the German silk industry. There, they experimented with materials as planes and with how surfaces and furniture could support function and guide people's movement. Bringing these precedents together, tectonic arrangement and the choreography of interface came to fruition here in the pavilion, a temple of modernity. Imagine walking up the narrow stair to the long travertine podium. The large pool gives you pause. Your next movement is guided by the green wall, which leads you into the more intimate space under the roof. Brightness and temperature shift between the open terrace and the darker interior. A freestanding onyx wall greets you, suggesting a center in this seemingly empty space. A large black felt carpet draws you in. With so many reflections, glass, metal, stone, and water, it is the only object that absorbs light and dampens sound. You are standing at the intended destination. From here, you can explore the rest of the space. Visit the sculpture at the small pool. Follow the darker corridor behind the onyx wall, which suggests movement rather than pause. Or return to the large reflecting pool and sit at the bench to contemplate. Again, this is a highly choreographed sequence and a carefully manipulated perception of space, skillfully perpetrated by the masters. As architects, Mies and Lilly's mastery was not only poetic, it also rested on deep knowledge of building systems, how to build precisely and make it feel effortless. The elevated podium, while recalling classical precedent, concealed a practical system. The perfectly level travertine field was a raised assembly of slabs on pedestals. Water slipped through the joints, drained into the void below, and was carried away. To save cost on material, 3-centimeter stone slabs were attached to both sides of masonry walls, with short, solid blocks capping the ends to create the illusion of a single monolithic wall. To streamline the flat roof, drainage was routed through concealed downspouts within the walls. By 1929, advances in glass manufacturing allowed nearly 12-foot wide single panes in some areas. Clear glass faced the plaza. Green tinted glass enriched the small pool by the sculpture. Dark gray glass toward the back softened views to the rear access. And a translucent white box became a lantern by day with an integrated skylight, and by night with artificial light. Determined to avoid visible fixtures, Mies made this the only light source after dark. In early sketches and plans, columns are absent. The roof was first imagined as hovering above planes of wall, but columns proved necessary. Temporary A-frame supports, visible in a May 1929 construction photo, confirm this structural need. To preserve the idea of a hovering roof, Mies made the columns nearly disappear. 4 L-shaped steel angles were fused into a cross and clad in reflective nickel sheeting, forming strong point supports with the smallest footprint. As seen in the interior perspective made by Mies and his team, the reflective casings dematerialize the columns, and the perpendicular angles limit direct frontal reflection. Matching metal finishes appeared in the glass frames and furniture. The Barcelona chair, supported by flat spring steel more common in trains and cars, was fabricated into a resilient X-frame. Mies and Lilly designed the chair, ottoman, and tables for the Spanish king and queen to use during the opening ceremony. Roughly 2,000 square meters of travertine and marble were sourced, shipped, and installed, making this not only the most expensive building Mies had designed to date, but also the most expensive single building at the expo. After World War I, modernism in the 1920s generally promoted simplicity and efficiency. Mies and Lilly's lavish use of stone, bronze, and glass was a bold gamble, but it paid off, earning wide recognition across disciplines and ideologies. Mies would later carry less is more, along with his love of natural stone, bronze, and glass, into his iconic towers in the United States. Behind the serene image, the journey was treacherous. During construction, funding collapsed 2 months before opening. The King of Spain intervened, pressuring Germany to continue, and work resumed with only 6 weeks left. Even the acclaimed sculpture Dawn was a scramble. In his final days in Berlin before traveling to Barcelona, Mies took a taxi to Georg Kolbe's studio and borrowed Cecilia, a plaster cast for another project, painted to look like bronze. At the exposition, most critics responded positively to the extraordinarily beautiful figure, assuming that it had been created for this specific location. At the opening ceremony, the rush showed. Painted stucco stood in for missing stone at the back. The unfinished secondary building was sealed behind boards. The dark red velvet curtain never arrived. The glass lantern did not work. Most conspicuously, the sign that says Alemania or Germany was missing, leaving visitors even more confused about the building's function, since there was no information inside or outside. Given that whirlwind, it is understandable that Mies and Lilly left with mixed feelings. They did not commission a professional photographer. They left Barcelona and never returned. Before demolition at the end of the exposition, just 8 months after opening, only one professional photographer documented it thoroughly. Sasha Stone, in 13 carefully composed images centered at the height of the onyx wall, helped transform a short-lived building into a legend in architecture and design circles. Mostly only relied on these photos across the United States and Europe. Mid-century modernism absorbed the pavilion's language. In California, Richard Neutra refined it in the 1946 Kaufmann House. Pierre Koenig's 1960 Stahl House pushed the idea to the edge of a cliff, literally. Sasha Stone's photographs turned architecture into cultural memory and became a blueprint for later iconic architectural photographers, from Slim Aarons's poolside gossip at the Kaufmann House to Julius Schulman's case study house number 22 at the Stahl House. In 1986, due to its significance and the interest of the Barcelona government, the pavilion was rebuilt on its original site. The local Catalan architects had to rely on documents redrawn from memory, the original stone layout, and Sasha Stone's 13 photographs. Several building systems were updated. Nickel cladding and frames were replaced with stainless steel. Brick inner walls were replaced with steel framing. The brick foundation and flat roof were rebuilt in reinforced concrete. Because of the sturdier construction, the new columns are now believed to be largely decorative. A new basement with small service elevator underneath the secondary building adds room for archives and maintenance tools. Germany donated a real bronze sculpture cast from the original mold, arguably the most authentic object in the new pavilion, which is an intriguing irony. Like the nearby themed Spanish village, which Mies likely disliked, the pavilion was brought back to life. Critics have asked whether a reconstruction risks becoming an architectural theme park. But as American architect Paul Rudolph recalled after visiting the rebuild in the early 1990s, it is very different from drawings and photos. The Barcelona Pavilion is religious in its nature and is primarily a spatial experience. It is simply unprecedented in architecture and the greatest of all Mies' buildings. If you enjoyed a quiet side of architecture, where I want to explore the emotional impact of the design in the real and fictional worlds, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories about the spaces that shape us. I would love to hear your personal encounter with the space. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.